All right, so let's get the show on the road, boys. Pod number 5. As we're well aware, of course, my partners in crime here, Rob Castro and Dick Newman. So as we're all aware, the NFL schedule was released yesterday, and a lot of the major networks devoted a lot of airtime to that. And so we're gonna talk about that because I think there's some great matchups on the schedule for 2021. But before we jump into that, I kind of curious as what you guys are thinking about this rumor that Tim Tebow is going to be signed by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Before I get your guys' opinion, I was watching Ryan Clark yesterday on ESPN, and he was kind of like shaking his head in disgust, saying, why are we even talking about this? The guy is not a tight end. He's 10 years removed
from a lot of young players, and they're going to.
Oops, sorry. I was
right.
pulling up something. Pulling up something on Tebow.
Yeah, he's 10 years removed from putting on a helmet and shoulder pads. And Rob Ninkovich, the former Patriots linebacker, said, even today, I'd throw that guy around. Dick, what are your thoughts on Tebow being signed by the Jaguars?
Well, I was just looking it up, and they did sign him to a contract that's worth $1.2 million. I think that just for the geek and entertainment factor, they'll probably keep him on the roster. If they can find a spot for a guy like him, they will, just because of the juice and the entertainment value. And apparently, obviously Urban Meyer loves the guy. Otherwise, he wouldn't be giving him a shot to come back and, play at a position that he's never played. He's obviously a great natural athlete. There's no doubt about that. But he's been away from the game for 10 years, and this guy's going to get a shot. But Kaepernick couldn't get a shot back because, he took a knee. It's just, I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. If he wasn't such a strident, show-off, humble bragger, I really wouldn't give a shit. But he comes off as one of those guys where it's like everything with him, he's like, so nice and so, upstanding and all that. But, he plays baseball for a bunch of years and played like shit. Like he wasn't good. But, all everybody ever talked about was, how this guy is following his dreams. And well, what about all the other guys that are following their dreams? What makes him more deserving? And I'm not rooting against the guy. I'm just skeptical of a dude who hasn't even touched a football field coming back onto the field after being away from it for 10 years. It doesn't make any sense.
And this is what we were talking about like 10 years ago. Hey, man, why don't they move Tebow from quarterback to maybe like H-back?
Exactly.
And even back then, I was very skeptical. I'm like, dude, listen, tight ends are like, Kelsey is like, what, 6'5". Kittle is 6'4". Gronk is 6'6". I don't know how fast Tebow is. I mean, the question with Tebow is he a football player? Yes, he's a football player. The guy's a great football player. But could he get separation? Could he catch a ball? Does he have soft hands? I don't know. Could he run any sharp patterns? So that's my only question, even more than the 10 years, because I know he could play football. But I just don't know. Listen, the Jets signed him a couple of years ago. The Patriots did too as a quarterback, and he didn't make it to the 53-man roster. So he might not even make it. They'll blow that $1.1 million.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't even make the Jets, for Christ's sake. And look at who the Jets have had. But then again, too, when he tried out with the Jets, he was still insisting that he was a quarterback. So, I guess like Urban Meyer is the Tebow whisperer that finally talked him into maybe a realistic outlook on like what his career could actually look like. Because I don't see him anything more as a blocking tight end. And maybe people saying stuff like that like inspires him to like really improve his skills and whatnot. But he's 33 years old, which is like being 50 in football, Tom Brady notwithstanding. And you're talking about playing a completely different position that has all of its own idiosyncrasies and intricacies and techniques that you need to learn. It's not like you just like wake up one day and are like, I'm going to be a tight end. If he had made the transition from quarterback to tight end when he was 24, that would have taken at least a full year for him to really like learn even just the basics of that position. And now you're saying that he's going to do it in a training camp? All right, have fun.
The thing is that tight ends don't even block anymore. The way the game has evolved, it's very little blocking for a tight end, so his position is limited. And like I said, I'm concerned. How fast is Tebow? I mean, could he get separation from these linebackers that are running 4.3, 4.4?
Especially at the age of 33, we're talking about somebody who hasn't been doing those kind of like sprint drills and the work that these guys put in the off season when they're full-time football players. It's all to keep going what they've already got going on. How much has he lost in terms of muscle memory because he hasn't been playing football? These are like real world things you need to think about.
Yeah.
And I mean, God bless him. If Urban Meyer wants to burn a roster spot on his special boy, God bless him. If he's willing to like do that, okay, cool. But I don't have to sit here and say, oh, what an inspiring story about this young man going after a dream of being a pro football player. Fuck that. He had his moment in the sun and he wasn't good. So
well, let's move on to more pressing matters, more serious matters. The draft was 2 weeks ago, and right around the news of the first round, news about Aaron Rodgers came out, and some waves were made, and he was demanding a trade, and it's kind of quieted down in the last couple of weeks. Although Devontae Adams has come out and said, "Hey, I'm 100% behind Aaron," and I think Devontae is ready to get a new contract here in either, I think not this year, but the following year. Hey, Rob, so do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to be in a Packers uniform next year?
You know what? Last time we talked about this, I said, yeah, he will be. And it's just looking like less and less, to be honest. I mean, like now you got Devontae Adams backing him up. He basically said, this is the only quarterback I've ever played for. Except when he got injured, of course. He's coming up on a new contract. So he's saying, hey, listen, man, if Rodgers is going to move, I'm going to look for another avenue and move myself as well. Because I don't know if Drew Lock or Love is the answer, or Blake Bortles is the answer.
Yeah, Blake Bortles.
So he's looking out for himself. And I don't think it's looking pretty good right now in the Cheesehead Nation, dude. The Packer Nation they might lose Rodgers. And I was very harsh on Rodgers last week. And I there's always two sides to a story. And I do feel that I could see why he's so pissed, because I thought that general manager had let him know they were drafting a quarterback. They never did that. So I could see him getting all up in arms about this. So, I would be pissed off as well. It's like you go to school and they have another teacher right behind your back waiting for you to retire. So, but yeah, it's not looking good in Wisconsin right now.
I don't blame Rodgers for being pissed off. I mean, have you seen Jordan Love actually throw the ball? Like, you watch his games at, when he was playing in Utah, and it's like kids making mistakes all over the field. He's throwing the ball all over the field. I'm not saying that he doesn't have talent. I am saying that I don't know whether or not he can be developed into a starting NFL quarterback. I thought that pick in the first place was very curious. I also thought it was insanely questionable. And trading up to get that guy, like that to me just screamed that they didn't know what they were doing, or that they panicked on it because, other receivers that they had their eye on have been already drafted ahead of them. But, the thing that really strikes me about this is that the Packers also seem to be really terrible at communicating with their most important players. I know that, it's an owner and management league, and players speaking up is not considered a very popular thing. Only if you're Brett Favre, are you able to really enjoy your agency and push throw your weight around and get what you want. But, Aaron Rodgers goes and tries and does it, and everybody is saying that he's selfish. And, the Packers have built a better team around him. They look pretty good on paper now. Like, they got a decent offensive line. They got running backs. They got some receivers in there. But, I can understand Rodgers' long-term frustration. I can understand why things are coming to a head, because even though they've built this team around him, you're talking about a guy who spent, 10 years with bad coaches like Mike McCarthy. Come on. He had to deal with NFC championship games where he's got people slagging him Well, he hasn't won NFC championship games. Well, it's kind of hard to when your coach is kicking field goals from the goal line when you got Eddie Lacy in his prime in the backfield. Or when you're on fourth down like they were against Tampa, and instead of going for the tying touchdown on fourth down, you're kicking a field goal and just going to give the ball to Brady with a lead. Like, that doesn't seem very smart. So I can understand why he would be perceived to be overreacting on this, but I fully understand. He's like, I'm sick of this shit. I'm tired of dealing with you guys. I'm tired of dealing with this bullshit. You know, I go ahead and I say, hey, I really like this fourth receiver that we have. And I say it publicly, and then you turn around and then you release the guy. You know, everything that I say is counter to where you're going. They're not seeing eye to eye.
What do we make of this Blake Bortles signing? Is that a sign to Rodgers, like, yo, dude, get in line? I mean, because they got Jordan Love, and I don't know that we need, and I'm not calling either of those guys, high-profile players, but Rodgers, Jordan Love, and Blake Bortles on the same 53-man roster. I mean, I don't know that we need three quarterbacks of that stature. So is that a sign that they're moving on from him? Or are they trying to send a message like, yo, dude, get in line?
Not to me. I don't see that. I don't see them sending a message. The only message I see Green Bay sending is that they were not prepared and they were completely unaware of the mood and position of their most important player, the fucking MVP. The fact that they went and they signed Bortles. Look, man, you signed Blake Bortles when you're in deep shit. Like the Rams went and they put him on their practice squad when Goff broke his thumb last year, because he had spent the previous season with them. Bortles is not the guy that's going to be threatening Aaron Rodgers' job. And from everything that I can tell and everything that I've read, the Packers know that Jordan Love isn't even ready to see the field. Like if Love was starting, they'd win maybe 3 or 4 games. Even with the decent roster that they have, Jordan Love is not ready to play. The Packers got completely, they're getting leveraged right now. And obviously they don't like it. They need to play nice with Aaron. They don't want to trade him because, of course, they don't think they can get fair market value. But, even though they might be doing a halfway decent job of roster building, they didn't do a very good job of talking to the guy.
Rob, Blake Bortles, what do you make of that?
I don't know what to think of that. I mean, is that the best they could have done? If they are being cautious here, thinking, hey man, Rodgers is either going to sit out or retire. They're not trying to send any message to Rodgers. They're just afraid actually that he's going to pull the trigger and be like, dude, I'm not coming back.
That's a good point.
So they're very concerned about that. But I'm thinking like Blake Bortles? Dude, is that the best that was out there right now? Like, I am just so shocked. At least you should have picked up a guy in the draft. I mean, like, maybe in the 5th round, another way, if you think you're going to lose Rodgers. I don't know. Like, Blake Bortles, I don't know what to make of it. I just want to see this done already, dude. I either want to see Rodgers in a Raiders uniform, Denver. I just want to see this done. This whole drama drives me nuts sometimes. He could linger for months.
Right.
So I want the football season, and I want to see Rodgers in a uniform because he's amazing to watch.
Yeah.
And I think there was something like, he couldn't be traded before, and you guys may have got wind of this. He couldn't be traded before June because of the cap hit that he would have levied against. Yeah. It was like it's like $30 million or something. So after June, after June 20th or whatever, it drops. All right, not sure if you guys had a chance to look over the schedule, but like we talked about, the schedule was released yesterday for the 2021 NFL season. And, as always, a couple, peculiarities. I don't know if you guys saw that the last, for the Washington Football Club or Washington football team, their last 5 games of the year are against divisional opponents, which was a little bit strange. I don't think that's happened in a number of years. But did you guys take notice of any teams that are really got an easy road, or any teams that might have a significant challenge in reaching their goals?
Yeah, big time. I think easy road. I'm going to start with the Patriots. The Patriots, if you really look at their schedule, so check this out. Week 1, let's say they beat the Fish week 1, right? Which is, it's pretty fair. They're playing at home. Then they go week 2, they go to the Jets. What do they have? A rookie quarterback and a new head coach. Come back week 3 against the Saints at home again. And what do they have? A new quarterback in place. Then the big game we're all waiting for, week 4, which is the Patriots, against Tampa Bay. They might lose that. But then they go to week 5 to Houston. What are they missing? A quarterback. So in those 5 weeks, they're playing a rookie quarterback with the Jets, no quarterback with Detroit, and a new starting quarterback with the Saints. And when you look at their schedule, they're getting the Bucks, Cowboys, Saints, Browns at home. So I think the Patriots have it nice. They could easily start 6-1. So if they start 6-1, I think they could cover that, 9-10 game win, whatever they have them. And I think the stuff is the Steelers, man. The Steelers they're going to run through a buzzsaw. They have a gauntlet. They start out the first game at Buffalo, come back to the Raiders. Okay, week 3, the Bengals, they take that, a divisional game, but then they go to the Packers. If Rodgers stays, that's a loss. Now they can be 2-2, right? Then they get the Broncos, Seattle, and then they still have to play Baltimore, Vikings, Tennessee, Kansas City, Browns, and Ravens to finish the season. That's insane. So I think the Steelers, this might be Roethlisberger's last year. I think this is going to put him into retirement. I really do. I think the offensive line is that bad. I think Najee Harris is going to get abused out there. He might look good and get Rookie of the Year because they're going to get on the rock a lot. But that schedule is deadly. I think the Steelers it's a really tough schedule.
Sean, what do you got?
Yeah, the thing with the Patriots is I agree that the Patriots could start off quick. I don't know about whether or not the Dolphins are just going to I don't know about whether or not they can beat the Dolphins in week 1. A lot of it has to do with the Pats and whether or not those free agent signings come together for them. That's kind of a big deal.
They did last year, though. They did play the same game last year.
Yeah, I know. And we always get them, with that bookend on the season, and then the Patriots finish the game in Miami. I totally get that.
And I don't know why they keep doing that, though.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. We still don't know what the Saints are going to look like. They haven't even decided who their starting quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be, the right-handed, Bizarro Steve Young, or is it going to be Jameis Winston? It ought to be Winston, I think.
But the thing is that they're getting them at home. And they're starting new, that quarterback. It's not a proven starter.
Oh, no, I get that. I mean, the other thing...
And they're tough games, they're all getting them at home. They're getting the Cowboys at home, Saints at home, Browns at home, and the Bucks at home. So,
well, the other thing that they've got going for them, getting to play Houston on the road, yay. They also play in a week. The division is getting better, because the Bills are ostensibly better.
Dolphins.
But and the Dolphins are getting better. However, Brian Burke over at ESPN has a stat that their department worked on, which is called net rest differential. And they're going to be playing the Bills on a Monday night after the Bills have 10 days off. In terms of the rest differential between everybody else in the league, the Pats are at -15. And they're also going to have only 3 teams that they'll be playing coming off the bye. So did I read that right? Yeah, I think it's only 3 teams that they're going to be dealing with. Yeah, they play only 3 teams coming off the bye, meaning, so they're going to be playing teams that are like.
But you said the key word there, you said only.
Yeah.
Are there teams that are playing more teams coming off the bye? Because if it's only, that means it sounds like a favorable, or like only 3 teams.
Let me double check this, guys.
Yeah, look it up. I'd be interested to see what the Pats, why Sean's doing that research. I imagine that, what's his name, Rob? Not the quarterback that they drafted, but the other kid from Carolina.
Cam Newton, yeah.
Cam Newton. I imagine that he's going to be starting the season. And I don't know if he's going to groom the kid for a mid-season start or whatever. But it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens with that quarterback situation. If Cam plays well, it's his. If Cam doesn't play very well, then maybe they bring the rookie off the bench.
Yeah, and this is why I picked the Patriots, because any game in the NFL is tough. It's any given Sunday.
Yes.
That's why it's so hard to say who has the easiest schedule, because it's all based on records from last year, right? Previous records. But if they start off 6-1 or 5, like 6-1 or 5-2, I think they could cover that over/under of 9 games. If they're 6-1, they have to get 3 more games, and they've only played 7 games so far.
And last year Cam was throwing to janitors. Like, he wasn't even throwing to he wasn't throwing to really competent players. And it's not like, I love Pats fans. They're like, Edelman, borderline Hall of Famer. No, he's not. He's like fucking far outside of the Hall of Fame. Shut the fuck up. But if Edelman is like the guy that you're going to be flexing with, then you're going to suck. But they made a bunch of free agent signings. So is Bill going to be able to adjust his offense and make sure that things like work the way that they should? I would bet on that. Yeah. Betting against Bill has never really been a good idea. Whether Brady is there or not, I really don't care. He's still the best football coach that's been around. Yeah. He's got Cam Newton. They'll be fine. Now, the scheduling thing, they are the only team that will be playing 3 teams that come off of the bye. Everybody else is playing less than that. Most teams are going to.
So that goes against.
Yeah,
them.
That's stacked against them. And I saw a stat here that a couple of years ago the Bills played like 5 games against teams that were coming off the bye. That's tough when they've got extra prep time like that. And their net rest differential is -15 versus the average in the league. So they're going to be playing teams that have longer rest relative to the amount of work that they're putting in. So there could come some times during like the middle and the late part of the season where that could catch up with them. Maybe they end up getting some weird injuries or something like that. So it's a wrinkle that I would throw in there before I'd be rushing to the betting window and taking the Pats at over 9 wins.
All right. Well, let's talk about some specific games here. Week 1. Great matchup. I think it's a Thursday night game, and we got the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. General impressions, Sean, about that matchup. What are your just thoughts off the top of your head about Tom visiting Dak, and Dak visiting Tom in Miami, or in Florida?
Yeah, nice matchup if Dallas can play defense. If Dallas can stay healthy, if Dak is healthy, that'll be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, I like that matchup, Dave. I always think like keep it sexy, and what's sexier than the Cowboys,
Yes.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm curious to look. How is Dak going to bounce back from that injury?
Mm-hmm.
And you could use it as a Cowboys fan as a barometer where the Cowboys stand. You're playing the reigning champs, week 1. Tampa Bay's bringing 22 starters back. That hasn't been done since the 1977 Raiders.
Wow.
So they're bringing their whole squad back. So it's a good gauging point. Plus, you're going to have a new defense with Dan Quinn, which was your Achilles heel last year, because the prior year to that, Dallas was a pretty good team.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what I'm looking for in this game is really how is Dak going to come back from that injury? Is he going to be in his head? Sometimes you're healed, but you're still mentally, it takes you a couple years to get back.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see how that defense looks with Dan Quinn's, at the helm, because remember, they lost a couple cornerbacks they really wanted in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So that might still plague them, but that's what I'm looking for in week 1.
The thing with the Bucs though, and this would play out longer as the year goes on. Yeah, they brought back those 22 starters. I saw that too. And, they were really smart about it, but I'd be concerned about their depth. And they also didn't have very many injuries last year. So looking ahead as the season goes on, Tampa is already a pretty decent favorite to go back to the Super Bowl this year. I would be circumspect on that because when a team generally has really good health for 1 year, the next year, injuries seem to crop up. I mean, that's the ebb and flow of football. So I would be really careful. I'd be really careful looking ahead on that game. So like right now, I look at it and it's like I love the idea of the matchups if everybody's healthy on both teams.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of favorites to go to the Super Bowl, we know Bucs are always going to be there in the NFC. But in the AFC, we got the Chiefs and Ravens, and those two Super Bowl contenders square off in week 2. Rob, general impressions, Chiefs, Ravens.
Man, this is a playoff game in week 2 if you want to see it that way. Ravens revenge game for them, but what is something to really look at here is like, remember the Ravens traded Orlando Brown, their offensive tackle, to the Chiefs
Yeah.
right before the draft.
Yeah.
So this might come back and bite the Ravens in the ass, making Mahomes that much better. So this is something to look for in week 2. But the matchup, I love it. I mean, are you kidding me? This is a playoff game right here. Week 2, there's nothing sexier than that. So I love, and it's an NBC game. So NBC 9 game, love it.
Sean.
I'm always hyped for this matchup. I fucking love these matchups between the two of these guys. The thing is that, the Bucs gave everybody a blueprint on how to beat the Chiefs, in that Super Bowl. However, it only works if both of their starting tackles are out of the game.
Yes.
So, just saying, hey, we're gonna blitz all day on Mahomes. That's gonna get you killed if you have anybody who's competent playing at the bookends. But Mahomes versus Lamar, I can't wait to start digging into that game. Like right now, I just feel like I did like some snacking in terms of some of these matchups. But the first thing I wrote was always hyped for this matchup. Whenever I get to see these two teams play, I'm fucking stoked.
Yeah,
big time.
Well, speaking of being hyped, we know that Tom returns to Foxborough in week 4, and the Bucs and the Patriots. And I saw something today. Tom Senior. Tom Brady Sr. said he, when he saw that matchup, he was salivating. The dad was salivating, which is okay, interesting. We even before we started doing our podcast here, we've always had this debate: is it Bill or is it Brady? Who has made the Patriots such a great dynasty? And, we're going to get a little bit clearer picture of that in week 4. Rob, if Brady goes in there and rolls Bill, does that tarnish Bill's legacy at all? What are your thoughts on that week 4 matchup?
I've never been one to get really into that. We'd love to talk about it because, of course, who makes better is the coach or the quarterback. I'm such a big Bill fan. Also, Brady's the greatest ever, and I think Bill is as well. Now, Brady's 1-0. Okay, he won a Super Bowl. He went to the better team. If he rolls them, it's not going to look good for Bill, but I don't think his legacy's tarnished at all. I mean, he's playing like Sean just said it earlier, like 2 minutes ago. They were playing with dog shit last year. And I don't know if Nelson Aguilar or whatever their signings are that much better. But granted, that's not what I'm looking for. I'll put all that aside. I'm really looking for Tom Brady to go back where he made his home, where he won his rings. And, if he does, he has a chance to break Drew Brees' record that day, right? At the home he built for most passing yards. So that's something I'm really looking for. Outside of the whole drama, like, Bill versus Brady, I don't care for that. But I'm super excited about this game. Brady going back to Boston, and maybe breaking Drew Brees' record. At home, I think Robert Kraft will go crazy and get him a couple hookers. Like, if he breaks it in Gillette Stadium, I think it's amazing. I mean, like, this is like a storybook. Like, so that's what I'm really looking forward to in week 4.
What we're leaving out of the equation here is who's the head coach in Tampa. It's Bruce Arians, and he's no slouch himself. I mean, he does have a ring, and it is with Brady, but Brady was executing an offense that he put together that not a lot of guys can run. As a matter of fact, Arians has one of the most complex offenses in all of football. If you pay attention to what people are saying and the way that it's run, and is Arians going to come up with a game plan that's going to be able to counter the sort of chess moves that Bill does on defense? And just because Tom is Tom doesn't mean that Bill doesn't know the ins and outs of his head and what he's looking for and what his tendencies are. And, looking at it from the from the holistic picture, I've always said, you guys have always not accused me of like trying to, split the baby or anything, but I've always felt that it was more of a symbiotic relationship between those two, no matter whether they wanted to admit it or not. Like Bill put together the game plans. He motivated the guys to put together the team. Tom executed on everything. It was a combination of the two of them. You know, you could have put Aaron Rodgers in there, and Bill would have succeeded with him or any other great quarterback. The real test is, you know, he's got a Cam Newton who's not necessarily over the hill, but he's definitely in the second half of his career now.
He'll open a hat store next year, dude.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see about that, but you know, if Bill can beat Arians and Brady with Cam Newton, even after all the injuries that he's had and the fact that they have second-rate wide receivers, then you're going to have to put Bill, you know, not only on Mount Rushmore of football, but probably like, you know, if he wins another Super Bowl without Tom Brady, which could, yeah, I mean,
I don't think it's happening.
No, it ain't happening.
No, that ain't happening. But unless he makes a trade for Rodgers or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's about the only way you'd be able to do it.
Mac Jones up north, but no way. That's not.
I mean, part of me almost wants to put on New England sports radio just so I can hear the delusions of people talking about how, like, you know, Mac Jones is going to be the second coming of Brady, and they got him at a cheap price and at 15 overall, or all the crazy ass shit that these people are saying, and it's like, no.
I think the AFC champion is either coming out of Buffalo or Kansas City, and that's the matchup we see in Week 5. The Bills visit the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Rob, thoughts on that matchup of two titans in the AFC?
Another NBC night game. I'm like so stoked for that. Like Bills top 3 team. You know, I mean, it's a flip between the Ravens and the Bills. I'll put of course, the Chiefs at number 1. But if you want to get to the promised land, man, you have to beat Kansas City. And Buffalo has to do that. So I'm so stoked for this game, honestly. And, I mean, Bills, I definitely top 3, but don't sleep on the fish. They're right behind the Bills right there. So I'm curious to see what happens this year. But, yeah, man, that Week 5 matchup, it's a sexy one.
Yeah, and to add, I would put the Ravens also in that class as well. I don't want to derail away from this.
Said that, actually.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, there's so many good teams in the AFC. It's just amazing. But this is a big test for the Bills, you know, because they got smoked by KC. You know, in their playoff game, they get their first touchdown off of a mess up on a punt. They weren't really able to run their offense very well against Kansas City, and Kansas City does not have all that great of a defense. I think a lot of it was nerves, to be honest. I think that was the first time that the Bills were in a real game like that. Kansas City had already had a couple of years of dealing with that. The year before, they had lost in the AFC Championship to Brady in the past. Then they came out and then just buzzsawed everybody, and then they spent this last season basically bored like 3/4 of the games. Like, they would get down 2 scores and just, boom, come back on you. And the Bills, they gave up some leads. They gave up leads to the Rams. You know, they ended up winning that game. You know, they got, you know, justice was served or whatever. But this is going to be a big test for them. And I think and this is the one that's going to decide whether or not they're a real player. So if it's a close loss, because it's hard, you know, whatever. If they lose it big time, everybody's going to be like, whoa, this is not what we were expecting. If they win in a big way, that might wake the Chiefs up. I think the Chiefs are going to be a lot more motivated than they were last year. They seem to be on autopilot 3/4 of, you know, they'd be going through a game and then finally they'd be down 2 scores, and then they would like turn it on and flip the switch. I think it's going to be different for the Chiefs this year. That's just a gut feeling.
Well, you know, it kind of reminds me of the Chicago Bulls, Pippen, Jordan, trying to get past the bad boys of Detroit, of the Pistons. You know, it's like Detroit was always knocking them down. And I think the Bills or the Ravens, because we can all agree the Ravens they're a great team too, but you know the Chiefs are the bad boys, and either the Bills or the Ravens need to get through them in order to make it to the Super Bowl. Okay,
or the Colts or Tennessee,
or the Colts or Tennessee. I guess.
Yeah.
Injuries are going to dictate a lot. I think.
Big time.
They're going to dictate a lot.
We know it's KC, and then it's probably like Bills, Ravens, Colts, Tennessee. You know,
but you know,
not exactly
Carson Wentz is a pretty big question mark over there in Indianapolis.
Big time.
I'd put them at the bottom. So week 7, Dick, let's begin with you. Who is this game more important to? Week 7, Rams versus Detroit. Who needs this game more, Jared Goff or your new quarterback in Los Angeles? Who needs this game more?
Well, let me start out by saying everyone should be scared of Jared Goff in a high-pressure game. So Matt Stafford's going to have his work cut out for him in this one, isn't he? Look, Goff is basically a placeholder guy in Detroit, and everybody knows it. His money is guaranteed. They're probably going to want to go drafting somebody in the next year or two, to replace him. Unless, of course, he blows up. Maybe, McVay wasn't the quarterback whisperer that everybody thinks that he is. I don't think that's the case. But Detroit is doing the smart thing, and they're building their offensive and defensive lines right now. They didn't go after flashy guys in the draft. This is a bigger game for the Rams because the Rams have to get to the Super Bowl this year. They need to be a Super Bowl contender for, the trading of all these draft picks and whatnot to be justifiable. So the pressure is really going to be on them to win every week, not just against Detroit. I'm sure that, the guys are going to hug on the field and, hey, Jared, what's up? Maybe somebody jokes or whatever, but then it's just going to be all business and their ears pinned back because they have to win. The only way to justify getting rid of the goof is by going out and kicking his ass. So that's what they're going to be doing. And I really don't look at this as like some like NFL Network with like revenge game this and revenge game that with, when they had Stafford on. And I was like, this is bullshit. Like you guys are just like making shit up. I get it. You want to get eyeballs and trying to create storylines. But the real storyline here is that the Rams have to, every week, are going to have to be bringing their A game. And people are, going to have targets. They're not necessarily going to have targets on their back. They're not a favorite or anything. But to think that,
they're favoriting some people's minds. I think this game, honestly, if you push the narrative aside, these quarterbacks playing their ex-teams, it's not a very good game. That's why NBC took the Niners and Colts, a primetime game. I'm definitely going to peek in because I'm going to be curious how Goff looks in a Detroit Lions uniform, and I want to see what Stafford does. But, and usually at NFL packages at 1 o'clock games, there's only 4 games going. But the reality is the Rams are a much better team. And everyone's making a big deal about this whole thing when the Rams could just blow them out of the water. So I don't think the game per se is that good. Yeah, the whole storyline is kind of cute. I want to see Goff and Stafford playing their ex-teams. And I'll peek in and look. But I don't think it's a very exciting game, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, at first glance, I look at it. I haven't even looked at the spread. That's one of those games that I looked at. I was like, shit, the Rams could fucking beat them by 2 scores.
Big time, man. Playing at SoFi, they just might blow them out of the water.
Yeah,
but for a second.
It's like I'm not going to be rushing to the if the Rams let's see how the season goes. But if the Rams
will be rushing.
No, man, I'll fucking at first glance. Yeah, this is one where it's like, I don't think I really want to be betting this game because you'd probably be having to lay a lot of chalk on it. And that is something that I'm really not. I'm averse to that now. It isn't 15 years ago where you're like, oh, I'm looking for a sneaky favorite. But yeah, I really don't see a lot of. I don't really see a lot of high pressure in this one.
The geniuses in Vegas got the Rams pegged at 10.5 wins. This year, over under that number, Dick.
Yeah, I lean to the under because of depth and injury concerns. The Rams are pretty thin at middle linebacker. They're going to need some guys to step up if they've been training and whatnot. Bad quarterback play kind of played into why they only won. They only went 10-6 last season. They should have won 12 or 13 games. But
it's so funny you're going on with the under with better
for now. Yeah, I mean, right now, if I
have them way over.
Yeah,
they're thin. They don't have depth, but their starting lineup is solid. It's super solid.
I mean, they've got talent. I think it's a skeptic in me that's talking right now because looking at them on paper, yeah, this is a team that should win 12, 13 games easily. But
So look, yeah,
San Francisco has the best roster in the NFC West.
But this is what I'm saying. So for anybody to pick on their 10, and they actually are getting Stafford now, I don't know. I like the Rams. I think the Rams are
well,
solid.
at the beginning of this, and it's like I'm thinking it through, and it's like my biggest lean to the under was strictly because of any depth and injury concerns. And the Rams, they didn't have a ton of injuries last year. They have a 38-year-old starting left tackle. You know, they didn't even take a flyer on any offensive linemen in the draft this year. So that signals to me that they feel pretty good about the linemen that they have in the building. Their defense is still solid. So it's actually pretty easy for me to talk me into hammering over the 10.5. I just wouldn't go nuts with it. But I think that that's pretty solid.
All right. Let's move on. Cowboys, 9.5.
I lean over mainly because the NFC East is so fucking bad. And with Dak's health is the only thing that like really makes me question this one. Because without Dak, they're not going to win any more than 5 or 6 games. And the NFC Beast, I mean, look at who they get to play. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of improvement from Philly and the Giants, but it's not that much, is it? Really? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. So the 9.5 going 9.5 is.
I have them way under. Listen, Cowboys, be careful you don't start 0-2. You're starting off with the Bucks, the reigning champs, and the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. That could easily put you 0-2. Then you have to come home to Philly, which is a toss-up game, right? Like it's a divisional game. And not only after that, you have to play at Kansas City, Arrowhead, Minnesota, and the Saints, and you might split with Washington. How do you get 9 wins there? If you split with Washington 1, you can start 1-2. That's already 3 losses. And then you got to go to Kansas City. That's 4. And Minnesota is kind of shaky. The head to Minnesota, that could be 5 losses. So I have them right scratching on their 9. I say Cowboys 9 or 8 wins, I say.
Let me take a look at this again.
You know, it seems
that Steelers game to me is a fucking toss-up. Period. I don't really think much of this. Yeah, I don't think much of that. Buccaneers, yeah, the Buccaneers should win, but in the Chargers game.
Should win. Chargers at home? Maybe not. Maybe Cowboys do it. But
the Cowboys are so much more dangerous with Dak, but Mike McCarthy is the head coach. So guess what? You know what? Fuck it. Under. I don't see them getting any more than 7 wins on the year now that I think about it. There's just no way in hell. There's no way in hell. Well, like, I didn't put too much thought into that one. I did put more thought into the Dolphins, though.
All right. Well, let's hear what you got to say. Dolphins, 9 games on the season. What do you got?
First of all, I am a big fan of what they are doing down there. I absolutely love what they got going on. I like the way that they're building their roster out. I love the stockpiling of the draft picks. You know, the fact that now they're going to have to ride or die with Tua, but they got him weapons. That's good. You know, so looking at them week 1 against the Pats. Who knows?
I could see the Dolphins starting 1-5 like last year, actually.
Yeah, I could see that. The only game that
name the top 6 games, Sean. What do you got there?
Top 6. That's the thing. The only ones that I really like for them are the Jags, the Falcons. I like the Jets game. The Panthers game is a toss-up for me.
It's a toss-up.
Who knows whether or not? Yeah, the Giants, they'll win that game. The Saints, that's a toss-up. The Jets, they can win that game. Titans is a toss-up. And then the Patriots at the end of the year. So 9 on the over. Fuck that. I'm taking the under.
Yeah, it's tough. Now, if they get out of that mini, I need the Dolphins schedule. What is the first 6 games, Sean?
What, for the Dolphins?
Miami, what are their first 5-6 games? Can you tell me?
Yeah, so they start off the year against the Patriots in New England.
Okay, correct.
Then they got the Bills at home in Miami.
Okay.
Then they go on the road to Oakland, and they should have lost that game last year.
Should have lost. So now that's a revenge game from Oakland. That's what I'm saying. 1-5.
And then you got one of the best rosters in football with the Colts coming to visit the Dolphins.
Exactly.
Then they got to go on the road and play Tom Terrific in Tampa. So I look at that.
They could start 1-5. I'm telling you.
They could. Now the thing is, I don't think they will. I think they'll
I don't think they will either.
I think they'll pull out a couple of squeakers. I could definitely see them beating the Colts. I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Especially if Reich is too conservative in his play calling, like we've seen him do in the last 2 years, like when he had Jacoby Brissett when he was starting. And, he opened it up a bit more for Rivers this past year, but now he's got Wentz coming in. We don't know which version of Wentz we're going to see.
No, we don't.
And I'll say this about that Dolphin line over-under. If they get out of that mini gauntlet at the beginning of the year that I said they could start 1-5, if they have a winning record, they could do the 9, 10 games. If they go 1-5, they're not scratching 9, dude.
No, God, no. They're not even going to. They won't even come close to the playoffs.
Last year they started 1-6, and they won 10 games. So this is what I'm saying. That the schedule's not favorable at the beginning, but it is for them towards the end. Because they're going to get the Patriots in December when it's hot. They usually beat the Patriots at home when it's really hot. If they could get out of that mini gauntlet, they could do the over 9. If not, it all depends on those first 6 games.
Another exciting team besides the Dolphins, I think, are the Chargers. We got Chargers pegged at 9 games. Rob, what do you think about that number?
You know what? I like the Chargers. I think they're a sneaky good Super Bowl team. I think the Chargers might pull 10 or 11 wins this year. I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but I like the over on the Chargers. And I say that very confidently. Like, I really do.
Yeah, this is a team that's had 13-win talent for years now. Yeah. They've been so talented and so skilled and so good, but bonehead plays, penalties, turnovers, stupid, weird shit. It's almost you couldn't fucking script the shit that's happened at this.
And I think, and I don't mean to jump in real quick, Sean, but I think they have that badass safety who got 2 season-ending injuries in preseason.
Yeah. And they've had just terrible luck. Yeah, absolutely terrible luck.
So
and a medical staff that almost killed Tyrod Taylor. I mean, like, how do you're going to give the guy a pain injection, you end up puncturing his lung. Great job. No wonder that team has so many injury problems. So, but you got a new coaching staff coming in. They're going to go and play in SoFi.
That's the Achilles heel right there. New coaching staff,
Mm-hmm.
I lean to the under for the moment. Even though this is a team with 13-win talent,
correct?
Do they play any real home games? Like, they're going to be playing in SoFi, and that place is going to be filled to the gills with fans of opposing teams. Like, how many Charger fans are actually in Los Angeles? Mm-hmm. And, you got that factor that you're going to have to work with. So you might be having people rooting against you in your own home stadium. And there's got to be a psychological effect with that. There has to be. I don't care how professional you are.
After Herbert's rookie season, I think some fans have bought in.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious to see him in his second year. Is he going to go through a sophomore slump? It's very common with NFL players having a bad sophomore year. So I like the over, depending on Herbert, the new coaching staff, how they're going to gel in just 1 year. Because, like you're saying, they're a 13-win team. But if he has a bad sophomore slump, like he has a bad year, I could see them going under 9.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like that 9, it's almost like Vegas is just like fucking daring you to give them their money by taking the over. Because everybody looks at the Chargers and they go, oh, that's a team with a contender. And, they just got a new coach. And, maybe they'll, finally get out of the doldrums. And meanwhile, Vegas is setting them at 9 for a reason. And right now, I lean to the under. Talk to me right before the season, but who knows?
And I like the Chargers defense, man. They got.
I love it too.
Is it Melvin Ingram? I think his name is.
Yeah.
And don't they have
Joey Bosa?
And they got the Bosa kid. I mean, their fucking defensive line is stacked.
Yeah,
up.
I don't. Did they resign Ingram? I know he was looking for money.
I believe they did. I thought he got injured towards the end of the year, and I believe they re-signed him, but I could be wrong. Moving on, I laughed when I saw this number. Jets 6.5. Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Even I recognize that. I don't know anything about gambling.
They didn't win last year with no rookie quarterback. I mean, with Darnold, 7 wins. What makes you think they're going to win 7 with a rookie quarterback?
That's crazy.
No way. That's like...
Yeah, all these other ones, it's like it's all been leans with me, and it's like, no, because there's too many. There are too many factors in them where it'd be like, yeah, man, I'm going to make, But the Jets, on the other hand, we're talking about a completely rebuilding organization, a rookie quarterback that's going to be coming in. Robert Sala's going to have to completely turn around, the culture of that organization, and they're going to have to go up against the Bills. They're going to have to go up against the Dolphins. They're going to have to go up against better teams than them. That's just all there is to it. Now, I think they'll be competitive. I think that Saleh. I wouldn't go rushing to the window to necessarily, be taking the chalk against the Jets every week. But under 6.5, fuck yeah, dog. This team ain't going to win, but maybe 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
So, without even, running some statistical analysis, yeah, man, fucking hammer the under on the Jets.
Okay. And God, I mean, what to make of the Texans, Deshaun Watson? I mean, has anybody's star fallen faster than Deshaun Watson's? I mean, these guys are. They were a pretty good team 3 years ago. The Vegas insiders got them at 4.5. What do you guys, Rob? What do you think about that number?
4.5? That's laughable. They couldn't win 5 with Deshaun Watson. You could lock it right now. At least 15 losses, dude. At least 15 losses they're gonna have. Lock that.
Yeah. Yeah. This is my second one where it's like, this is a bet I would make. Like, oh yeah, I'm making that bet. Texans
they might
under 4.5.
For the next quarterback that's coming out of college, whoever the hell it is.
They're gonna suck for a long time. This is the worst organization in football. They're worse than even Washington, and Washington is bad. Mainly because Dan Snyder is such a shithead. But dude, 4.5 wins. They'll be lucky if they get 2 or 3 wins.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sean, you mentioned the NFC East as being the NFC beast, but they have been everything but a beast of the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, and probably the strongest conference in all of the NFL is arguably the NFC West.
Yeah,
we got Seattle, we got the Rams, of course, and the Cardinals are kind of an interesting squad.
Yeah,
and we got them at 8
and
wins.
The Niners.
How do
shit.
Yeah.
And so the Cardinals at 8 wins. Sean, what do you think about that?
Under. And my big thing on that is that you got to play in a division like that. And I think Kingsbury is the sort of guy who might end up being a pretty decent offensive coordinator. I really just don't think of him much as a head coach. And the biggest thing for the Cardinals is that they might be able to sneak out a couple of wins within their division.
Correct.
But they're going to get hammered in that division. Their defense hasn't really improved. I don't care what you want to say about signing J.J. Watt. He's primarily a pass rusher. He's not going to help you out as much with the run game as he would have a few years ago. And that's not a criticism of him. That's just a reality of where they are. And
that's a tough one for me to pick. The division is tough, but they are not a bad team.
No, they're not.
They're not a bad team.
They're not.
They have a very good offense. They also signed the wide receiver from Cincinnati,
AJ Green.
Exactly, signed Green. So they have some weapons. So and Kyler Murray, I could see him sneaking out 8 wins, but for the heck of it, I'll say 9. But I could see him being a 7 or 8 win team. But just because Kyler Murray, I could see 9 win. It's very tough to call this one.
Yeah, I think we're right on the fence. Sean, final thought on Cardinals.
I think that Kyler Murray is capable of stealing you maybe 2 or 3 wins over the course of the season, just by himself.
Yeah.
But having to go up against the Rams who have such high expectations and they're loaded in stock. Seattle has got Seattle is the team that I could see them beating the most because Seattle is the thinnest at their position, at their roster as well too. They haven't done the best job in like building offensive lines or anything either. But the Niners are going to be really good this year. The Niners are going to be duking it out to try to get back to the Super Bowl. They have one of the best rosters in football.
Yeah.
And knowing that Arizona could potentially go 0-4 just against those two teams and maybe 1-1 against Seattle. And that's not to try and jinx any of the other teams or anything. That's my read. So I have to take. I lean to the under.
I feel the same. But look, the Niners, even though we're all expecting them to bounce back, but the Falcons never bounced back. And there's a reason why they drafted a quarterback. They have terrible play at cornerback. They're even thinking of bringing Sherman back.
I know.
And what does Arizona have that's good is their wide receivers.
They do.
So if they play the Niners, it doesn't say that the Niners are going to come and just beat them just because their cornerback play right now is awful. It's not bad. It's just actually awful. So they've lost a few key pieces in the defense since they went to the Super Bowl. And hey, man, look at the Falcons. So yeah, I'm expecting the Niners to bounce back, but it's not set in stone.
Yeah, I mean, but, that's why I lean to the under on this one. It's not one where I'm like, yeah, man, I'm putting my money on that. The previous two plays on the Jets and the Texans, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's what picks are. It's like you're not going to – I mean, some people are going to go – the professional bettors, they'll go ahead. The guys who, have systems put together where they're doing statistical analysis and spreadsheet, and 2% of my bankroll is going on every one of these bets, and they've got their own thing set up. They'll go ahead and bet on all that stuff. But – everything in here for me is a lean, except for the Jets and the Texans. Everything, including even the Pats. It's all leans at this point.
As we wrap up this show, I got a little curveball I'm going to throw at you guys. Didn't put this in our outline. But what is the one thing that you're looking forward to this 2021 NFL season? The one thing you're looking forward to. Process that information for a minute or two. What's the one thing you're really looking forward to? Experiencing, seeing, doing. What's the one thing you're looking forward to?
Maybe fans back at the game, but oh man, I don't know. A lot of rookie quarterback play. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see Trevor Lawrence, how he's gonna pan out. I'm excited to see Zach Wilson. I'm excited to see Justin Fields. I might be excited to see Trey Lance if he could go in by week 10. So all these rookie, I don't know how many quarterback, I don't know what the record is of rookie quarterbacks starting in 1 year, but that's something I'm actually looking forward to because a lot of these guys have potential, and I'll throw even Mac Jones in there. So to me, I mean, these kids are getting a lot of hype. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I mean, it might be messy, but I'm bringing the fans back, Even though you do watch the game better on TV, football, it's about people getting rowdy and tailgating. So,
Sean.
No more empty stands. There were some aspects of the lockdown that I appreciated, like no traffic and no crowds and stuff. But, the crowds at a ball game, the sound of everybody going totally ape shit at a game. I miss that. I miss that stuff. I mean, that's the stuff that makes it really fun. But the other thing that I think I'm really looking forward to is seeing whether or not all these moves that these teams have made, I want to see whether or not the Rams really were just a quarterback away from winning 13 games and making a deep playoff run. I really want to know if that really was the problem. But there's also danger in that where, Stafford could get hit, and hurt. But being able to have a beer at a ball game, yeah, I'm looking forward to that, man.
Yeah.
That's fucking rad.
Maybe plan a game at Rams Stadium, SoFi, and then take a trip to Vegas.
Yeah.
And take a new Raider Stadium. But I'm also curious to see Dak back.
Mm-hmm.
His injury is really gruesome. So I'm curious to see how Dak is going to respond after a big contract with missing, the whole year. So.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm looking forward to is either visiting SoFi Stadium and watching the Rams in action, or visiting Alliant Stadium and watching the Raiders. I think it'd be great if we all got together at some point this season and and visited one of those stadiums and spent the money and really enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah.
To kind of remember what football was all about.